I mean, one of the best ways to actually go through and start dropping home prices is to value engineer your plans, right? I mean, if you can take out $1 million before you start construction, then you can lower all your homes $25,000 or $5,000 or whatever it may be.
Yes.
If you can lower the cost of construction, lower the cost of design, or even buying property, then that translates directly to the home buyer.
Good afternoon. This is Doug Newell, and this is Property Pulse, where we explore different aspects of the real estate market in the United States, in particular, looking at the role that artificial intelligence might take or has taken so far. I'm very fortunate today to have Landon Odom. Did I pronounce that right? I hope. It's a simple name. I've got Landon here, and he is a civil engineer and has interest and experience in the land acquisition and which property has to go through what processes in order to become commercial or residential properties. Can you introduce yourself? You can do a better job giving your background than I can.
Yeah, of course.
And then your company, if you would too, please.
Sure. So my name is Landon Odom. I'm originally from Austin, Texas. I got my civil engineering degree up at Texas Tech, and then moved back to Austin, where I worked for a civil firm there, and then popped around in a couple different cities in the U.S. working as a civil engineer. Helped open up 2 different offices, got my PE, my professional engineering license. And then after about 10 years in the civil engineering field, I actually transitioned over to a single family home builder here in Austin. And then just back in March, I came over to a company called Blossom Development, where we do a single family development as well, but I'm leading their land development team over here.
Okay.
And on the side, for the past year, I've been doing my own company, Odom Value Engineering, where I take approved civil plans and structural plans and review them for design inefficiencies and design optimization after they already have the permit to save the client money.
I can imagine those are probably considerable sums in that these projects are not trivial. They are multi-million dollar, I think, for most of them, right? And if you
Not in
find
the billions, not the ones
really?
I'm working on.
Okay.
So the biggest project I worked on was about 150 million, and that was just the land development side of it. And that was, I think, like 700 acres, 8 phases, text dot improvements, roundabouts, the works. But it's not common that we get into the billions.
You've caught my attention, and it's sort of fascinating. If you're doing a $150 million thing, it doesn't take a large improvement to add up to real bucks. What kind of thing would you find there? Would it have to do with the soil or the layout of the building or the access, or what things are you looking at? Your world is new to me, so.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it all starts from looking at buying a new piece of property, right? And there's a dollar number on that, right? And then you have to plan it out. So, you work with civil engineers, you work with planners, you work with architects, and you lay it out to where everything is, congruent, works together. The big expenses on that $150 million project were really due to access. We had to do a bunch of text dot improvements that brought access from the north, and then we had to install a roundabout to the south, and then a connector road that went through the entire site. It was also down in the city of Buda.
Was the land already purchased when you got involved, or did you get involved pre-purchase?
It was already Right. It was already purchased when I got involved. They bought it 7 or 8 years ago, and then it took them 7 years to get it through approval and get PID financing. So they were able to get taxes to help fund it and the city to help pay for it.
I see.
All the public improvements. But yeah.
I was just recently I was doing a podcast with a gentleman from Canada in the real estate space, and he was talking about the, again, long lead times. So it sounds like it's common to both Canada and the United States that when you're talking about a big project, you're talking about like 5 years. Is that correct?
Depends how you're going to get funding. If you have the money up front in the capital, then sure. But even if you do, you want to see if the local jurisdictions will help fund it, right? You don't want to put all your money into it. And a lot of times cities will help because they want the tax revenue from these new homeowners moving in, right? So they'll help fund all the public improvements, and then, they give you tax credits and all sorts of other discounts to help you come in and build some more infrastructure for their city to grow.
Cool. What kind of tools do you have to help you with your job? I mean, like information, and do you is there a database of the soil types for all of Texas or all of Buda or uh, things like
There
that?
is, and it's
Is
it's
there?
national. You can get on
Okay.
USGS, and it's a national soil database where you can kind of look at different areas. It's not that accurate, right? So every time you
Okay.
have a new project, you hire a geotech engineer to go out there and take soil samples. So they'll bring a big drilling machine, and they'll drill out those big cylinders, and they'll look at how the soil is, what kind of drainage you're getting from it, what kind of permeation you're getting through it, and what kind of settling you're going to have on your homes.
Right.
So if you
So on
have
a
a site that has a certain type of soil that's going to settle a bunch when you put a big building on it, then obviously you have to do something about that. So you have to treat the soil
footings,
with lime or some other
right.
method.
So you've got it on a macro level in the US that you can tell the, the soil from New England where it's rocky and so forth from the plain states and such. But
That's
then on
correct.
a on the micro level, you rely on these soil samples. How many tests might a 50-acre plot or something get? Would that be have hundreds or dozens or
Typically, you want one sample for every acre.
okay.
So you have quite a few out there. If it's large and flat, probably less than that. But when you actually start separating your project out into lots where you're going to be building homes, you have to do a foundation report for each individual lot so that you can determine how big you need to design your slabs for your homes.
Yes.
Because the
Yes.
last thing you want to do is build a home and then all of a sudden it starts leaning and sinks into the earth.
No, no, that's when the lawyers get involved. You don't want that. Okay. Do you have tools that sort of give you a project from sort of three dimensions where you can see the layers of soil and then the what you're putting on top and over there's going to be the swimming pool and such?
We do, and you kind of use different professionals to put stuff together. So civil engineers kind of drive it. I mean, they get survey information from the field, from their surveyor or somebody else's.
Yep.
They take the geotech information, and then the surveyor will actually get points from the existing site. They'll provide those points, GPS points, if
Uh-huh.
you will, to the engineer. They'll put them in AutoCAD, which is a
Yes.
really good program to build your civil engineering plans. Right, you can
Yes.
do your 3D surfaces, and you can use your existing surface, and then you can build your 3D proposed surface on top of that. And that's how
Right.
most engineers do it, is they use AutoCAD.
Do you ever get involved pre-land purchase? Yeah, I'm thinking where somebody asks you, can you take a look at this and see if it's suitable for the hospital we want to build there or something? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. So, we definitely do that before we purchase, all right? So you go and you talk to whoever's selling the property, and you get all the information they have about the site. And then you start doing your own due diligence and making sure that it's going to be worth your time to buy it. And if half the site is floodplain and you can't build in it, then it all of a sudden becomes way less valuable than it was. So
Huh.
yeah, that's definitely part of it, and one of the most important parts about land acquisition.
I'm learning tend to move a little bit in that something that was a floodplain in 1955 when the government started putting in where floodplains are may not be the floodplain today. How do you keep up with something like that?
So FEMA helps out a lot, right? And
Do
FEMA
they?
has their delineation of floodplains around creeks and rivers and lakes and everything that has water. And so that's public information. And the engineer puts it on your plans, and you look at it. Okay, I can build around here. However, it's super important when you're doing your product, especially after you buy it. You go back and you do a floodplain analysis and you redraw the floodplain, right? Because FEMA's doing it at high level.
Yes.
It's important to, because you're trying to maximize your profit. Most important thing is going out there and redelineating it, and getting actual elevations in the field. And then
Yes.
that way, FEMA will give you the base flood elevation, the BFE. right? And if your survey point is actually way higher than what it showed on their map, you can actually push back that BFE and have more buildable area.
Okay. And that sounds like sort of one of the opportunities for economic savings or whatever. If you can put another lot or two into a property because the floodplain is not where FEMA thought it was, right?
That's right. We
Okay.
have, and typically it's, conservative from FEMA's perspective, which, makes sense. But we have a project out in Georgetown where, we were able to reclaim 50 to 75 lots by
Wow.
re-delineating the floodplain. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's very significant. And when you're selling those lots for 500K or whatever it may be, that's a lot of money that adds up.
It is. It is. What percent of your work is residential versus commercial?
It's been about 90% residential since I
Okay.
jumped over to the development side. When I was a civil engineer, it was about 25% split on every industry, a multifamily, single family, industrial, commercial.
And on your side business, is that all residential or again a mix?
It is a mix. So, the most recent one I had was it was warehouses up in I guess East Texas, and it was relatively large, and we were able to find like $450,000 in savings, which was
Great.
great. Everyone's happy
You
about that. And we only take a small percentage of the savings, right? We don't even get paid until those savings are
really,
realized.
that's a very powerful way to market. It's like heads you win, tails you don't lose, right?
Right.
You
Now we're just here to help.
cool, cool. Uh, do all development efforts bring in a civil engineer?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Uh,
Uh, then how do you, besides word of mouth about the really good work you did on the warehouses or whatever, how do you get involved? How do you market yourself, I guess?
Mostly LinkedIn and social networking.
Really?
I'll go on
That's
LinkedIn.
cool.
I've got my page on there, it's Odom VE. And I post every day. I actually use AI to help with those posts.
Hmm.
But they can write those way better than I can and keep coming up with fresh ideas every day.
Is there some early warning system in all the land, whether it is a purchase of land or something that warns you that, oh, got a live one here, you know?
Well, so my company doesn't get involved until the plans are already permitted. All right. So
Okay.
I guess let me back up a little bit on and kind of explain how the development process works.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that'll kind of help your audience understand that a little better. So, land acquisition, due diligence, that's the first step, right? You're looking for property, you want to buy something, you're like, hey, I want to put a subdivision out here. I want 200 lots, right? And you look at it, you make sure that that's doable. You check the zoning, you check the code, and typically you've already hired a civil engineer to do some due diligence for you if you don't
Okay.
have that in your tool belt. Then you purchase the land and you create the construction documents, which are essentially anything from erosion control to grading to utilities to your construction standards and your details. You
That
submit
sounds
those.
like an enormous amount of work. How long does that take?
The first set of plans that you're creating can take 45 days, 2 months to just gather the information, put it together, and get it submitted. And so they submit it to the city or whichever jurisdiction is reviewing it. It could be in the county if it's not in city limits. And so they'll review the plans, they'll put comments on it, send it back to the engineer. Engineer will review the comments, address them, resubmit, and this goes back and forth until the city is okay with how you've designed it. You've met all their city standards, all their city codes, and they're like, okay, we're good with this. And then they give you your permit, and you go out there and start building it. They have inspectors typically that make sure you build everything to plan.
Are you still involved once it's sort of being built or built?
Yeah, especially now. So when I came to the developer side, it opened my eyes to not just the civil engineering portion, which typically ends at the permit. All right. They'll have a construction guy that helps out in the field, but that wasn't my role. But I was more on the design and project management side. On the developer side, I see and manage the engineers all the way through the permit and then the project all the way through construction. So our team also does home building. So we'll do the site construction, which includes utilities, paving, the pond, drainage,
That's
all
Blossom.
that fun stuff.
Blossom does that construction work?
We hire general contractors, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Got it.
And then we have our home building team come out and start putting homes on the ground, or we sell those to other home builders.
Okay. Cool. How big's Blossom?
It's relatively small. It's actually very small. It's a startup. So we just started. They bought this property a few years ago, and they've been working on it. They just brought me on board back in March. So it's a small company. I'm the VP of land development, and then I have an assistant project manager that we just hired on. And then we have a purchasing team, and
So that project in Buda was like your first project?
so that was actually with my previous company.
Oh, was it? Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Interesting. Whole new world for me. You mentioned AutoCAD.
AutoCAD, yes, sir.
AutoCAD. What other data or databases might you be tapping into to feed AutoCAD?
So, I mean, your biggest
you mentioned the
source.
soil ones. You're probably you only care about the soil on the site, I presume. Is that
You
correct?
do, but you also care about other restrictions that the city imposes on you, right? There might be easements that are going through your site that you have to design around. You have to, if there's any existing utilities in the area. So, we have a 2-inch water line going right through the middle of our site right now. And we're able to pick that up on the survey, put it into the CAD file, and then we design around it, right? As we're working through how to vacate it. So,
Okay.
other resources we use, I mean, on the project manager side and on the developer side, really, we're just mainly project managers. So civil engineers are the ones doing all the design. You just, since I have a civil engineering background, I'm able to review it, make sure that it all makes sense, make sure that it's built cost effectively. Also, right? That's a big part of it. And we're looking at stuff where sometimes, the grading might be designed wrong, or not wrong. Like it works, right? Everything drains, but that might not be the most effective method to grade out this site. Um, but yeah, so we have lots of different tools that we use, and we lean on different disciplines to help us get through the project. Yeah, I mean, every project, every industry has that sort of stuff that just kind of grinds at you. Invoicing definitely takes its toll on you. Going through it, one of the biggest issues that I've seen is there's issues in the plans. And when you have issues in the plans and that goes to construction and then you build it, well, then your project manager or whoever's working on the project has to backtrack and take extra time to fix those issues. So it costs more money and it costs more time, and it
Yes.
completely just off or derails you.
Yes.
So that happens so often. And one of the reasons that happens is a lot of developers push too hard at the beginning, and they just want to go, 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 go. They want to get your permit as fast as possible. We don't care what it costs to get there. What we want is we want to get a permit, we want to get it built, and we want to see homes being up in the air and for sale signs out front. And that works. Yeah, there's plenty of developers that do that, and it works very well. However, there's also a lot of drawback that the people at the top don't see, and that's the additional cost, the additional time that you're putting your guys in the field onto to fix those problems, where you could have alleviated it early on if you just spent an extra month running through the plans and making sure everything was perfect.
Yeah, there's what it takes to do it right and what it takes to do it twice.
Right.
So
That's correct.
okay. It sounds like much of your job is, if I can fashion it this way, almost an enlightened project management, in that you understand the technical side of things, but then much of it is there are a number of steps, and if you spin around the steps and you put C before A, it's going to bite you in the ass, right? But so there are steps, and associated with the steps there are overhead. There's billing and checking things off and sending this report to whomever to keep them up on the status. And there's all of that, which sounds like almost a giant Gantt chart, as far as this is dependent upon this, And once you get this foundation poured, then you can start grading here and things like that. And there are nuances in different homes, I think, that just because they're different, this one's going to require 10 feet more of driveway and things like that. Am I in the right direction here as to what your role looks like?
Yes, yes, for sure. So there's definitely a lot of pieces that you have to do on every project that are very similar, right? And if you start getting out of those out of order, then things can get all wacky. However, every project is different. Every piece of land is different. Every jurisdiction has different requirements. So you're always going to have things that go a little haywire when you're in the field. It's just trying to reduce those as much as possible and trying to catch things early. Right. So one thing that my old mentor used to teach me was, walk the boundary, walk the site every week, make sure everything looks like it's going right. And if it's not, try to call attention to it as quickly as possible so that you don't get a month down the road and all of a sudden you have a pipe that's going underneath the building and now you got to tear something up, waste a lot of money and waste a lot of time.
Right.
So trying to spot stuff early is the most important thing. And if you can bring that to the design phase or right before you start construction, then you'll save tremendous time and effort during your construction.
Have you bumped into, I see, who is it? Certainteed, I think it is, that will sort of ship a side of a house at a time or whatever, and they all bolt together and things like that. Do you think that's the future, or how are we going to build a whole bunch more homes because we've got a generation that sort of is priced out of the current ones? Are we going to build those more homes, or are the Gen Zs, are they going to be in apartments forever?
Well, the market's changing right now.
Yes.
And a lot of people aren't moving or they're not selling their homes because they can't move anywhere because they locked in at a lower rate, right? Home builders are building a lot of homes. And yeah, the prices are high, but they have to start coming down to start meeting these buyers. The market will fluctuate and go back up.
Okay. So you think there will be some downward pressure on the prices?
Yeah, but it comes
held
down
out
to
so far.
it comes down like you look at your budget at the beginning of your project, right? And the cost of the property is so high around Central Texas that then you're kind of trying to pull down the prices on how much you hire engineer for, how much you hire architects for, all of that additional cost, but you can't because that's just how much they need to be paid to do their professional job.
Yes.
I mean, one of the best ways to actually go through and start dropping home prices is to value engineer your plans, right? I mean, if you can take out $1 million before you start construction, then you can lower all your homes $25,000 or $5,000 or whatever it may be. If you can lower the cost of construction, lower the cost of design, or even buying property, then that translates directly to the home buyer.
Can you elaborate on that thought? It's fascinating. You said sort of take $1 million out of the project. Is it by basically thinking it through from an engineering perspective before you do anything and getting it right, even if that's paying you a pile of money, not thinking short term, but thinking across the project? If I have really good engineering, then we're going to get 3 more lots in, which will free up enough money to do this and this, and it all works, as opposed to I got to sell a house in 6 months because the bank's knocking on my door.
That's right. Yeah. So let's see, not this past January, but January 2024, the market started going down. It tanked, at least in the housing market for developers. And what my boss came to me and asked me to do was to find a way to build this cheaper. So we actually pulled the GC off that was working on it. We went back to the drawing board. I sat down with the director at the time, and we reviewed the plans to see what we can do to start reducing cost. We found a conveyance pipe, which basically takes offsite flow through the site and just dumps it downstream. All it is taking water through the site. It was designed as a 42-inch reinforced concrete pipe that ran about 800 linear feet. We were able to change the slope and change a few things, and all of a sudden we were able to reduce it to a 36-inch reinforced concrete pipe for that entire stretch. That was a couple $100,000 in savings right there, just on one pipe. Right. And so the bigger pipe worked, right? Whenever the engineer modeled it, it definitely conveyed the water, but it didn't do it efficiently, right? So there's these things and projects that are all over the place, and all you need is a trained eye that understands the cost implications of the design and
Mhm.
how to reduce it without reducing the quality of the design. And so if you start
Well,
doing that throughout the site, you can get up into, the $1 million mark, where you can start dropping the cost of construction $1 million, and that will translate to the home building and home selling cost.
got it. That's fantastic. You're going to hang around the Austin area, and that's still building out, I think, isn't it? I remember going east of Austin by about 20 miles, and I was amazed that it was still interstate highway kind of thing, and it was all farmland. Having spent 35 years in the Northeast with much denser population, it's like, how can we be within 20 miles of the state capital and a 40-acre lot of land here, right? So it looks like Austin's going to continue to grow. Is that your opinion too?
It is. There's still large companies moving to Central Texas, and what that does is that drives tech professionals from California and other
Yeah.
areas of the U.S. To this area for jobs. And with those big companies, they need a place to live, and so home builders are going to keep building these homes.
Is the fact that this is my personal curiosity, there are a lot of large houses on fairly small lots. Well, land is something Texas has lots of. How come, what are the economics that are driving that? Is it that people don't value the lot that much? Or why do you get the McMansions sort of thing, big house next to each other?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like this is a typical problem or desire all around big cities, right? So near the city center in Austin, you have people that don't really care about their yards. What they care about is accessibility. They want to be able to go downtown. They want to go to the Domain. They want to go to all of what Austin has to offer.
Yes.
As you start getting outside of Austin, the lots do start getting a little bigger. And I believe after, you get to a certain age or a certain point in your life and you're living downtown Austin, all of a sudden you are wanting to raise a family and you start moving outside of Austin. And so then the
I see.
population slowly gets a little wider, a little further away from downtown, and the lots start getting a little bigger. Still, they're
That's
about,
a great insight. That's interesting. So there's sort of a migration back and forth as people go from lifestyle to lifestyle kind of thing.
right.
Interesting. Okay, because I was just, again, Texas, as it greets you at the border, points out that it is 96 miles to the other side of Texas to El Paso. And it's like, okay, you're showing off, what a big state it is and so forth. But it's just Texas is big, and just think about some of the towns around there, and it's just all this empty land, and yet Austin is world known, and it's, if you listed top cities in America, it would be in there. And compared to the congested Northeast, where 2.5 hours out of New York City and you were still, I once considered a job where I'd have a 2-hour commute each way every day to get into Manhattan and so forth. And it's just
Yeah.
different lifestyle kind of thing. Do you have lots of competitors out there? How many engineers, civil engineers are there in Texas or something?
And there's thousands. There's
Thousands.
so many civil engineers. I mean, they're always in demand, right?
So yeah. But I mean, some of them are sort of civil engineers putting a culvert on a road, right? And some of them are somewhat superstar like you are, where you can take some plans and no, that's wrong, and make it all right, right?
Yeah, so there's no other real value engineering companies like what I do in Texas. Most engineers are supposed to do this, right? Their
Yes.
client expects them to design it the most efficiently and do everything in favor of their client. They don't always have the time. Most of them can do it, but they don't have the time. They don't have the perspective a lot of times. I know some of the most brilliant people I know are civil engineers. And what you'll notice is when you start getting into that world is they have up to 5 to 10 projects that they're working on. And what they're trying to do is, they have a set number of costs that they're allowed, or on their budget they're allowed to build to. And so their clients yelling at them to get it done as quickly as possible. And they're trying to do everything they can, but they're short on money, and it's getting passed around different project managers. something is designed one way at the beginning of the project, and then at the end of the project, the new project manager on it doesn't know why it was designed that way, and so it just stays that way. And
Yes. So
it becomes
your
a cost
challenge
issue.
in scaling your company, referring to your personal company, is that you may have some people who are learning from you, but if you had 25 people who knew what you know, you could grow very quickly, because it sounds like the demand pays for itself, that you find things that you could point out, hey, I did this, like the pipe you were referring to. I did this and saved this much money, at which time your bill becomes an afterthought, that it's like, of course we paid them. Look at all the money we saved, kind of thing, right? But there's only one of you right
That's
now.
right.
Okay.
In this industry, I mean, other people could do it. Nobody's put in the effort to create this type of business. I mean,
Really?
I've got I've worked in several different states around the US, and so I know how to dive into the local code and figure out how to save projects money all over the US. So, yeah, I think it's an invaluable resource, and we're happy to help anybody that, wants to have a discussion.
Absolutely. Great. Nice stuff you do. I like talking to people who are doing nice stuff because I learn from them. So I appreciate your time.